Hello everyone and welcome to another video by Centipede Geek. I made a video about this book over on Instagram. I wanted to make more of a review video here on YouTube. So let's talk about this. We'll be talking about the first three books and what they call a wrinkle in time. The first three books and what is a trilogy, I guess you could say. Not really a trilogy in the sense that there's actually two more books in the series. It's a saga of 5, and I believe there's also a spin-off in books. I believe there's actually 6 books in all. Wrinkle in Time by an author that's been long passed away now. Her name was Madeline L. Engel. This actual copy, like I talk about in my Instagram video, I bought over in Branson, Missouri at a local antique shop in downtown, in the historic downtown part in Branson. I only purchased it for about $5. You can also find this same copy at Barnes & Noble, except it'll run you about $25, probably a little bit more than that if you include tax, and if you buy it online, that'll include both tax and shipping. I actually had a kind of a curious moment, so I went online, looked at this, and currently, at least at the current time in making this video, it's currently out of stock online, so you weren't able to buy it online. Then I tried looking in stores, and I looked within a 100-mile radius of the state that I live in, all the way going to Texas, and there wasn't any of this book in stock at the local Barnes & Noble in the 100-mile radius in the surrounding states that I live in, as far as Texas and Oklahoma and stuff like that go. So I thought that was really interesting. So this book is a little rare right now, at least in the local area that I live in. On eBay, you can buy the book for about $45 to $50. So it's actually kind of a rare novel right now, which is a little interesting, coming from Barnes & Noble, I thought. Let's take a little bit of a look at this. Obviously, it's the Wrinkle in Time, a wind in the door, on a swiftly tilting planet, going from 62 to 73 to 78, and then of course, like I said, the Barnes & Noble edition 2015. So the book, this version, is about 7 or so years old. Gives you a family tree when you look inside, and then here's some of the opening pages. Comes with a nice little blue ribbon of a bookmark, and then here's the back of the book. A nice hardcover edition too. Let's talk about the first book, A Wrinkle in Time. You'll probably recognize that as a Disney film that came out a number of years ago starring Oprah Winfrey, among other actors and actresses, and it wasn't a very successful Disney film. And what we have here, I guess you could say I would call it a classic, both science fiction and fantasy novel series. And we have a couple of characters by the name of Meg and Charles Wallace, and they meet a couple of 3 older ladies, Miss Whatsit, Miss Witch, and another lady, and they are drug off into a fantasy world or a fantasy realm, and they meet what they call the darkness and it, and they try to take the darkness away as it possesses, spoiler coming up, as it possesses Charles Wallace's character, and that's pretty much the main plot of the first book. Overall, it's a great first book. I remember reading it years ago when I was younger, and I always thought that for being a kind of a children's series, or at least it was always marketed as sort of a younger children's series, not really young adult, but more of a kid's series, it always had a lot more deeper and mature themes to it, as far as the darkness and the it, and possessing the child, and the child turning on the sister Meg. So I always thought kind of a little more mature themes, and that was what I always really enjoyed about it, is it was darker themes that you wouldn't find normally in a series like this. Overall, it's a great, Wrinkle in Time is a great start to the first 3 books. Really would recommend it if you guys haven't read the first book in this series. It has some really cool both science fiction and fantasy elements as they're traveling around the realms on different creatures, meeting different creatures. They meet Aunt Beast, and Aunt Beast is one of the cooler moments in these first 3 books. Let's talk a little about A Wind in the Door. What A Wind in the Door does is it does something a lot different than the other ones. And what we have in The Wind in the Door, and I'll turn here so you guys can see it. Page 197, A Wind in the Door starts. These first couple books are about 200 pages, and the last book is actually the longest in the series at almost 300 pages. There's A Wind in the Door right there. And we meet a character by the name of Prognosis, and forgive me if I pronounced that wrong. We meet Mr. Jenkins in this series. And what they do here is they get much more science fiction-y as we learn about a sort of as a mitochondria, lives inside the body of Charles Wallace. And what Meg has to do is she has to jump inside of her brother Charles Wallace's body and try to cure the mitochondria that's gone bad within his body. And you learn, so it's really neat. It's kind of like I said, more the scientific version of the series as she jumps inside his body along with this character Prognosis, or however you pronounce his name. Mr. Jenkins is also in the novel a pretty cool character as we meet 3 different versions of him, and there's a couple of tests in the novel, and she has to decide which one is the real principal, Mr. Jenkins. And it's just really cool, as you can see there in the chapter, Journey into the Interior, when they jump into the body of Charles Wallace and try to cure him. He's been feeling very sick recently, and they thought maybe at first it was the bullying going on at school, but they learned much later that it's actually something much deeper inside of his body. Kind of like, some of the darkness from the first part of the book is still in him at the second, and it's still affecting his body, is almost what it seems like. Overall, a great second book in the series. Once again, a call to Wind in the Door. And then about 300 or 400 pages in, we're introduced to the third series. So if you give me a second, I'll find it, or I can just turn over here. And $3.99 and what they call a swiftly tilting planet. And this one's really cool, because in this one we learn that everything in the universe is connected. And if you ever heard of what they call the butterfly effect, it's pretty much like that, maybe just a little bit different. But with the third is, like I said, in the Wrinkle in Time series, it's called a swiftly tilting planet. And what we have here is they go back to kind of like the dawn of creation and stuff like that. They travel through these, similar to what they've done in previous novels, these Wrinkle in Times. And this one is mainly Charles Wallace's journey as he jumps into the dreams of Meg, and we learn about Calvin's grandmother and what her name used to be, and we dive deep into her Welsh heritage and the Welsh history of her family and what her name used to be, and the kind of the cousins that she used to have, and the brother named Chuck that she used to have. Spoilers coming up. And that's pretty much what we have here. Charles Wallace has a unicorn in this by the name of Glodor. I believe that's the name. Forgive me if I pronounced that wrong. Meg's character is not in this one much. She's in kind of the beginning and end of the novel, but for much of the middle interior part of the novel, it's pretty much Charles Wallace inside of the mind, inside of the dreams of Meg, as they're trying to find out how Calvin's grandmother is connected, and they're trying to stop a bomb from going off in North America and then destroying pretty much the world as they know it, because they find out, since everything's connected, that if the Earth is destroyed, that it could have a cataclysmic or apocalyptic effect on the entire universe as a whole. So like I said, everything's connected in this, so it's really cool learning about that and seeing them travel to different things, different times and places and stuff like that. Overall, a solid third entry into the series. If you haven't read the first 3 books, A Wrinkle in Time, A Wind in the Door, and The Swiftly Tilting Planets, I would definitely recommend these. These are some great novels. You don't have to buy this version here. There's probably other versions with separate paperback, or maybe even combined, compilations also that are a little easier to find than this exact copy. I really got a steal on this one. My wife found it in that store and got it for only $5. So really cool buy. Really great first 3 books, combines both elements of science fiction and fantasy, and is really a classic series that a lot of young adult books probably take elements from and then kind of turn them on their head, giving them kind of a new feel. Great series. Once again, thanks for watching another video by Centipede Geek, and make sure to like, comment, and subscribe below.